What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall market. I want to break down why the setup on the market is looking very, very bullish and why we're seeing a lot of stocks that have so much more upside potential given what's happening around the world with geopolitics and trade policy. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so make sure you take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you sign up for Moomoo with the link down below and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 25 in total. And deposit $5,000, you're guaranteed 60 free stocks. The offer ends at the end of July, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with this market. So when we look at the SPY chart, we're on a very, very nice tear right now. We're breaking past a lot of resistance, and we're not that far away from all-time highs, right? We're currently at 596 a share. The all-time high is around that 613 area. So we're not that far away. We're less than 20 points away from all-time highs. And when you zoom in and look at this, we're also forming a cup and handle right here, which does give us a lot more potential for upside if we start breaking out of this. So for now, the charts do look a bit more bullish. But whether or not we get a breakout does depend on some factors, such as what's happening with President Trump and his policies and what's going on with the economic data coming out for tomorrow. So I want to prioritize talking about that first. Then I'll break down the charts in a lot more detail. Starting off with the economic data for tomorrow, just know that tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. Okay. In the morning, we have Bostic from the Fed giving a speech, which is kind of minor, might not affect us too much. But starting at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the S&P Global Composite and Services PMI reports, which may cause some volatility. Then at 10 o'clock a.m., we have the ISM Services PMI, business activity, employment, new orders, and prices data all coming out. This ISM services data could be very, very important. So we'll see if this causes any panic in the markets or if it causes a big rally. It all depends on what happens with this data. Right now, the most important thing is going to be new orders and then what happens with prices. I think that's going to be affecting the way to which we look at inflationary data. And then looking at the current trends, this data is very forward looking. So new orders will give us more gauges about how demand is looking right now. So watch that very, very closely and expect some volatility tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m. This is going to be some big data. So I do think that this may dictate which way the market goes, at least for the most part. So be ready for that. On top of that, there's been a lot of news involving President Trump that's contributing to how this market's going to move. If we get good data tomorrow and President Trump gives us good news, we want to see SPY break 598. If we break this high, I think we easily push for the 600s. The low 600s could be coming pretty easily. But if we get a big rug pull, you want to see SPY lose 595. If that fails us, we could be dipping back down to 591, if not 588. We want to see if we could break resistance. So I'll talk more about this in just a second. Let's talk about President Trump. So there was some news that came out that caused the market to kind of like dip a bit towards the end of the day, but then we just got bought back up. The news is that President Trump has signed an executive order right here to hike steel and aluminum tariffs to 50%, starting as soon as Wednesday. So he signed the order today, which means that he signed the order to increase these tariffs on steel and aluminum. They used to be 25%, now they're going to be 50%. And then they're going to be starting to take effect tomorrow, which is going to be Wednesday. They take effect tomorrow. So that's going to be some big news. I think that this did cause the market to slow down just a little bit, but then once again, it got bought back up. So it just goes to show that the market's still very strong. And even news like this is not really hurting the market too much. The market's not really like phased by this, especially since President Trump made this announcement last week that he was going to be doing this. It's just that today he officially is going to be signing the executive order, and then it's going to impose these tariffs as soon as tomorrow. There's also some news coming up from Tom Lee. He's from Fundstrat. He's known for being a big bull a lot of the time. But historically, he is correct the majority of the time with his predictions. And he's saying that there's a very, very good chance we could see another leg up from here. He is looking more bullish at this market, and he could be correct about that if we continue to break out. So keep that in mind. Part of why this is significant is because don't forget about Section 301 of the tariff exclusions. They've been extended until the end of August. This is some very, very big news for semiconductors, for motherboards, GPUs, and many computer parts, and all kinds of products that come from China. This is going to benefit a lot of companies, giving them a lot more time, and it's not going to really cause that inflationary pressure that a lot of people are, fearing about, right? This delays those tariffs for the time being. This is another good piece of news that came out yesterday. This is why the market was bouncing starting yesterday, and then it's continuing today. Also, there's been some big news that's coming out there, which is helping the markets, that the White House has sent out these letters to many different countries, and they're incentivizing their trade partners to come up with some good offers, come up with these deals and negotiate, because we're approaching the end of the exemption, right? We have the delay in the tariffs up until July 9th, which President Trump imposed. Once we get close to July 9th, then there's going to be a risk of President Trump increasing the tariffs again. Those are the reciprocal tariffs we were talking about that came out on Liberation Day. They did a 90-day pause, so keep that in mind. That's why the market is rallying. But once these tariffs come back, that could really change things. So you want to be very prepared just to be safe. I'm not here to be a negative Nancy or anything like that. I'm just telling you that's what's going on. So we'll see how that goes. Okay. Right now, there's been a lot of talk about how there could be trade deals coming. And there's lots of headlines saying the US is negotiating with Europe, which could be very huge. So we'll see how that ends up going as well. On top of this, there's been some more news that came out involving President Trump and Xi Jinping. The news just came out that the White House is confirming President Trump will most likely be speaking to the leader of China on Friday. This is big news because the last time they spoke on the phone, I believe, was before Trump was inaugurated. So now, after many, many months, they're going to be speaking again. And they're going to be sorting out a lot of the confusion, a lot of the tensions that have been going on. The market's very optimistic about this because, China is one of our biggest trade partners, and we need to see a lot more clarity and certainty about what's going on. So when they speak, if we get some good news, this can also help the market push. That could be very, very impactful for lots of companies. Not to mention the fact that we have Lutnick saying that there's going to be a big deal between the US and India coming very soon. That could be huge as well. We'll see what that leads to. We'll see when they end up announcing it, though. I'm not sure about exactly when they will, but once that comes out, that could also help the market bounce. That's part of why the market is pushing. And besides that, I already went over this. We're seeing semiconductor tariffs being delayed, which is helping Nvda and lots of these chip stocks. When you see like Nvda and Apple reacting more positively to this Chinese news and the semiconductor tariff delays, right, that is once again helping the whole market, at least to an extent. So that's why the market's pushing. We're currently at greed. We're going to see how greedy the market remains as we see buyers stepping in. Momentum is still looking more positive for the time being. The put to call option ratio is very flat. We're not seeing too many puts or calls being bought. They're kind of even for now. And the VIX is still dipping as it's looking a bit more bearish. Last but not least, I'm not going to go over all the details, but tomorrow we have Dollar Tree announcing earnings, lots of retail. We just got CrowdStrike for those who are interested. The earnings just came out. Then we have Broadcom on Thursday, which is important for semiconductors. So get ready for that. In case you guys are interested, get ready for these retail earnings. So with that being said, what do I see for the markets? Keep in mind, we have data tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Very important data for the services sector. That makes up a large chunk of our economy. So get ready for volatility because of that. But the chart does look bullish, but it depends on the data, of course. So let's just go over the hypotheticals and I'll talk about my prediction after that. So if you're a bear, you need to see SPY first off fail at 595. If that fails, we're looking for 591. If that support fails us, we could be dumping all the way back down towards 588 or below in case we get some bad news involving the tariffs and involving more other pieces of news. Now, if we end up breaking resistance at 598, we're looking for an attempt to get back up towards like the 600s pretty easily. We're going to easily push for 600 plus once we get above 598. So keep that in mind. If you're a bull, you want to see SPY essentially break past 598. Good data. Let's say President Trump announces a big deal with China. Let's say we get a deal with India, whatever the catalyst is. You want to see us break 598 and clear that, then we easily go for 600. And then we could even get closer to all-time highs if this continues, as this chart looks more bullish. Because when you zoom out and you go to like the daily time frame, the daily close is very bullish looking, very strong. The volume isn't too bad. It's decent, and we look very strong. And then on top of this, look at the direction, guys. This is just continuing to rally. We're not that far from all-time highs, and this chart resembles an inverse head and shoulders as we're trying to push for those all-time highs. So the market still looks very bullish as of right now. Of course, watch your levels just to be safe. If we break 598, we're more bullish. If we end up losing 591 and 588, we're more bearish. For now, we are looking more bullish on the daily time frame. So my prediction for tomorrow is that we might see a little bit of a consolidation move in the morning, right? Kind of like how we consolidated like right over here during the pre-market before we saw this rally. But then there might be another attempts to go higher. I think that we might consolidate like this. Then we might be pushing for 598. I'm not sure if we break that immediately. We might once again shuffle up here, and then we'll see if we break that later on to start pushing for the 600s. We need to clear 598. I do think we consolidate and push for 598. We might consolidate again since it's going to be a very tough resistance. We got many rejections there in the past, but then as time goes on, we might break down, just push for the 600s as buyers return, looking at the SPY chart. So that's what we're most likely favoring. There's nothing bearish about this yet, so we still favor upside. Might consolidate, then push for 598, consolidate around there, and then we might be looking for another leg up if we could break that. So that's what I'm looking for as well. On the triple Q, it looks very bullish because there's a clear inverse head and shoulders that's panning out. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. When you go to the 4-hour time frame on the QQQ, what you'll see is that it's looking quite bullish because we're holding up quite well. This also resembles the cup and handle. If we end up losing, okay, if we end up failing at 525, we could be dipping to like 523. And if that fails us, we could be looking for a bigger dip. But for now, we look bullish. We're forming this cup and handle like structure. We're holding up very, very nicely. And there's a lot of optimism with President Trump and his policies. So when you zoom out like this, it looks like a nice inverse head and shoulders, nice accumulation. Whether you want to look at this from a Wyckoffean perspective, whatever you guys want to use, we look bullish. Break these highs, and we're looking for an attempt to get back up towards the all-time highs. We still look bullish. There's nothing bearish about this, right? There's no sign we're breaking support. You want to see us lose like 521 and then 516-ish to turn bearish. There's no sign of us losing this. We're holding support and bouncing, holding support and bouncing. We're still looking bullish. So when we go to the 30 minutes time frame, this is also looking like a nice accumulation right here. Kind of this, you could argue this kind of looks like a cup and handle. Maybe it's not the best interpretation, but regardless of that, whether you see this as the handle or if this is just an inverse head and shoulders, it does not matter. It's bullish. Okay, it's bullish, plain and simple. You don't need to overcomplicate this. If we end up losing 523, if we get bad data tomorrow, if President Trump announces something that causes us to dump, yes, we could turn a little bit more bearish and retest 520 to 517 or below if we lose 523. But if we're bullish, you want to see us break this high right here around 528, and then we're going to be looking for an attempt to get back up to like almost 531 above that. If we're bullish, you want to once again clear up 528, then we're easily pushing for the 530s, and that could take us even higher. Like SPY, I think what's going to happen is this. This is my prediction. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a shuffle near 528. We might see some sideways price action right here. And if we break this, we could be trying to push for this 530.8 area. This high right here could be retested. So that's where we're going to be going to if we break this. And then if we break that again, we're going to easily just continue for 532.5 or above for more upside. It still looks very bullish. I am open to the bearish possibility, but we need bad data. We need something bad to happen. As of right now, we're not getting that, and this chart is looking more bullish. We got a nice breakout. We still look bullish with all the optimism that's coming out, and for the time being, the market is favoring the upwards direction. So I'm going to be very honest about that. On the IWM, if we end up losing 208, we're looking for a dip to 207.25. But when you zoom out, just like SPY and the QQQ, we have this left shoulder, head, right shoulder for an inverse head and shoulders. As long as we don't lose like 207 and 205 to start dumping, as long as we're above these levels, we could continue to uptrend back up for 211. We still look more bullish. May consolidate here between 208 and 210 before it breaks out for 211, then eventually 215. For ES, we're looking more bullish. We're making higher highs and higher lows, and we're doing so well again. And I think that we're doing a very, very good job at holding up. So from the way I see things, just to be very, very frank, we also happen to have this left shoulder, head, and right shoulder on ES. This is a very, very nice Wyckoffean styled accumulation. If we lose 5950, the yellow line right here, the 50 EMA, if that fails us, yeah, we could turn back down to 5900 if we get some kind of bad data or if we get some bad news from President Trump, if he imposes more tariffs, whatever the news is, right? If this data is not good, yeah, there's always that possibility, but it's not looking very probable right now because when you go to the bigger time frames, such as the 4-hour time frame, this looks like a cup and handle on ES. It looks very, very nice. It's a very, very nice level. The 6,000 area is going to be the big zone. It's going to be like a make or break zone. I do think we might be visiting that first. So this looks like a cup and handle, right? It looks very, very bullish for now on ES. And then when you really zoom out, this also resembles an inverse head and shoulders, a slanted one, right? This is like your left shoulder. This is your head. This is sort of like a right shoulder. It's a very, very small, and then that's going to take us to all-time highs. We look bullish. There's nothing bearish about this unless we end up losing well, the first sign to turn bearish would be a break below 59.50. That would give the bears somewhat of an edge, but still we need to break more support. We need to lose these lows to turn bearish. We're not even close to them. So we're still favoring the upwards direction. The bears have the bulls are the ones who have a bigger edge. So in my opinion, I think that this is resembling an inverse head and shoulders. And I think that what's going to happen is this. Let's go over the hypotheticals one more time, then I'll break down my levels and my prediction. We have an inverse head and shoulders setup. If you're a bear, you want to see us lose 59.50 to start dipping. If you're a bull, you want to see us hold above 59.75 at the very least. As long as that holds, we're favoring 6,000, eventually, a breakout into the 6,000s. In my opinion, like I said before, we're looking bullish. As long as we don't lose 59.75 and 59.50, I think that there's a good chance that we consolidate here, then start breaking out for 6,000. If we could hold above that, we're going to look for another leg higher. We look bullish, plain and simple. Bullish, bullish, bullish. For NQ, this is looking pretty good. Also, it has a white coffee styled accumulation, or this could be looked at as an inverse head and shoulders, whatever you want to say. I want to see it lose 21,569 if you want to be a bear. If you want to be a bear, you need to see us lose this yellow line at least. You want to see this high right here get taken out. Then we're going to be looking bearish if we end up losing 21,569. We're actually pretty well above that right now. And the setup is bullish. There's no sign of us losing support because higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. If we hold that, so we're looking for the high to be retested. So ES, left shoulder, head and right shoulder. We're looking bullish. We may consolidate around 21,600 to 21,800, but then if we start breaking this resistance, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to 21,850, then eventually closer to 22,000. If that breaks, we're looking for 22,000, so we look more bullish on NQ in my personal opinion. For Bitcoin, we have a nice double bottom leg structure. We're also making higher lows here. But we're also range bound on Bitcoin. So as we hit 106,700-ish, we reject. As we hit 105,000, we bounce. And we're just going back and forth like this. That's all it's really doing. Now, if we lose 105,000, this could be dipping even more. This could be resembling like a double top. But I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I think we might just trade sideways for some time. And hopefully Bitcoin does try to bounce more. It's technically trying to uptrend. So I really hope that ends up being the case. But we need to give this time. We have to see more confirmation of a break. We're not really ready quite yet. For Tesla, we were trying to break out, but we got some news about the steel and aluminum tariffs. And I think may have been other pieces of news that came out. And then Tesla started to dip a bit, so it wasn't ready to get that break. However, I do think that Tesla could get very close to 400 by the end of the month, as long as we don't get too much bad news. Now, it's possible Tesla does dip a little bit more and retests 340 or so, but I want to see it try to hold that as it consolidates. And then if we could hold 340, we're looking for a nice rebound back up to 348. We might see some sideways price action as Tesla tries to base, but overall, it still has the potential to bounce. Also, when you zoom out and go to our daily time frame, we could be looking for this. There's a possibility that we're also forming a nice accumulation right here. Right, we have the inverse head and shoulders set up on Tesla. I just want to see it hold 330. If we could hold 330 for the next week or so, there's a good chance we're going to see a big rebound for the 370 area, then eventually 400. And then also, when you really zoom out, this also resembles like a cup and handle, right? This is kind of like a cup. This is like a handle. It's still very bullish. Excuse me. We could dip to 340 tomorrow, 338. We could consolidate in that range, but ultimately there's still potential for a big bounce once we form our bottom. We want to see Tesla bottom soon. The daily is kind of weak, so it might come down a little lower, but then there could be a big bounce coming later on. We weren't ready to break out yet. We came close, but we weren't ready yet. We didn't get a close above 348 to be a lot stronger, so that makes me think that we could come down, consolidate for some time before we see a much larger breakout, at least later on. So keep that in mind. Nvidia is looking more bullish, especially because the semiconductor tariffs have been delayed. When you look at the 4-hour, let me just pull up the 4-hour just like this. We're looking bullish. If we lose 138 and 135, we're looking for a dump back down. But as long as we're above 140, we're looking for an attempt to push for basically 143.5 or above. So the 4 hour does look more bullish. And then the 30 minutes, it's also looking more bullish as well. If we have this nice inverse head and shoulders and accumulation like structure, we could, as long as we hold 140, we're going to likely continue to rebound and push for 143.5. For Apple also has a nice higher low that's being made here. It's uptrending, but it's not extremely strong. I would like to see us up like at least 1 or 2%. We're only up 0.7%. Despite that, although there's some chop here, it is technically on an uptrend. Let's see it hold at least 202. I want to see 202 hold. If that holds, we might consolidate here and then eventually start to push for 205 plus or above. There is potential for upside. Netflix is okay. We're just kind of consolidating here. I want to see us hold support. When you look at the 4 hour time frame, we're going to see if this tries to break out even higher. If we lose 1200, we could be dumping back down to 1190. But as long as we hold that, we could continue this uptrend for 1225 or above. For MicroStrategy, we're also looking quite good. We have a nice double bottom right here, and we're trying to break out higher. As long as we hold 382, we're looking for a nice rebound attempt to get back up towards 395 to about 400. So my view is that this is bullish, right? We got a nice looking inverse head and shoulders, double bottom, forming the head. And this is like our right shoulder before we start to break out. May come down and retest 382 and consolidate before it tries to break out for 395 to 400. So there is upside potential for MSTR, in my personal opinion. Celsius looks bullish. We did talk about this yesterday. Nice double bottom. We could be ultimately heading for 40. May consolidate here before it starts pushing for 40. There's upside potential. Supermicro is in a tough position, so it is trying to break out, which is great. But the problem is that you have a tough resistance around 44. If we could break 44, I do think we continue to rally for 46. This is forming like what's known as a big George W. At least that's what my friends call this. Basically, you want to break 44 to start pushing higher. Looks good, nice double bottom, but we need to break resistance for confirmation. Palantir is looking bullish. So long as we don't lose 130, we're favoring 135. Rivian, so we talked about how this might be coming down to test the 200 EMA before it bounces. We came close yesterday, and then today we just bounced before even touching it. So it came close to my target before it bounced, which is good news. We're going to be looking for a test of 14.69. I think we consolidate first before it starts to push closer to 15. SoFi is also forming a nice balance right over here. We have a nice looking higher low being made. If we end up losing 13.36, we could be dumping lower. And as long as we make higher lows, we could continue to push back up to 14. For AMD, we have a double bottom. I want to see us hold above 112.5. As long as that holds, we're going to continue to uptrend for essentially 118. ARM is also looking bullish. Nice double bottom here. As long as we don't lose 125, we're going to be favoring a push back up to 132. PayPal's looking good. As long as we don't lose 70.8, we're favoring push to 72. Coinbase looks good. We're looking pretty good here. So long as we don't lose 255, we're favoring a push back up to 262.5. Amazon also is making a higher low right here. As long as we don't end up losing 204, we're going to be favoring a push back up to 208. On Meta, we're also forming an inverse head and shoulders. We look pretty good. But I just don't want to see us lose that support at 660 flat. And also, we don't want to break this lower on 658. So I want to see us hold that. It's possible we come back down a little bit to retest 660. And we need to bounce off that to continue. There's potential for that to happen, but we need to see it bounce for now. Google/Alphabet maybe retesting 166, and we'll see if we bounce off that to push to 170. So look for a little bit of a dip, and we'll see if we bounce. Microsoft could be dipping back down to about 460, and we'll see if buyers defend us to get us to bounce as well. We're making higher lows right here, so we'll see if we end up testing 460, and we'll see what happens from there. For DJT, we have a nice inverse head and shoulders. As long as we hold 22, we're looking for a attempt for 23.06. The VIX is rejecting right here. We could be dipping back down towards the low 17s, and we'll see what happens. That's still looking, more bullish for the markets. The 10-year is once again consolidating, so we'll just have to see how this ends up going. This could go either way depending on what we hear from the Fed. We do have FOMC in just a couple of weeks. The dollar is kind of flat, not really doing much, so I'm not really worried about that. So, it is possible the market consolidates tomorrow in the daytime, but as time goes on, we have this cup and handle on ES. We have a bullish structure on SPY, the QQQ, and many tickers out there. So we still favor upside and lots of optimism with President Trump's policies. The market's looking bullish. Of course, it depends on the ISM services numbers for tomorrow. So get ready for some big data at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. And then after that, we'll see how the market does. We do look bullish, technically speaking, so we are favoring upside as the most likely possibility. So please keep that in mind. Always watch your levels just to be safe in case we end up going south. You always want to be prepared for anything. But I'm just saying right now we are greatly favoring upside looking at these setups. With that being said, thank you for listening. Please enjoy the rest of your guys' days. I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow. Have a good one and peace out.